Welcome to the Stay Paid Podcast, where we help agents and entrepreneurs master the latest business trends to unlock growth and create a life of freedom. Brought to you by Reminder Media.
Welcome to Stay Paid. My name is Joshua Stike.
And I'm Luke Akery.
Before we bring on our guest today, we'd love it if you take a minute to subscribe to Stay Paid over at Apple Podcasts or Spotify. While you're there, drop us a review. We will read it here on the show, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, youtube.com/Reminder Media. You can get each and every new episode in video form from Stay Paid Podcast. Our guest today, returning as always, Stephen Akery of the Akery Brothers Realty Team, the #1 team. Voted and rated.
That's right.
Voted and rated.
And did you just vote a bunch of times, Stephen? You just stood up. You created these bots just voting.
Over the years, we've really competed to do that. And this last year, we ended up placing, and we did nothing for it. It's maybe we don't have to do anything to get this.
Really how it works.
Yeah, you're just I don't know.
All the campaigning this year's worked for you.
It's awesome.
And our special guest today is David Camp. David is the CEO and founder of HomeScout and head of growth at Realty.com, with a deep industry knowledge and years of experience, including both small companies and Fortune 500 companies. His focus and expertise is on helping agents and lenders engage consumers, developing strategies to increase lead volume and conversion, and retaining portfolio clients using AI and data intelligence. David, welcome to Stay Paid. Thanks for being here.
Pleasure. It's my privilege to be able to be on with you guys today. So thank you for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you, man. You're also, we didn't mention it, but you're also a pastor of a church of 500 and growing. So I love that. I want to get into that a little bit because my dad's a pastor at workplace ministry, is something that's near and dear to my heart. Let's go start, though, with you've been an executive in the industry, an entrepreneur in the real estate industry. What got you in to real estate? But can you tell us more about, what are you doing today exactly for the industry?
Yeah, so I have been in the industry now for over 2 decades. It was actually completely by chance that I ended up in the industry. I started my career as an industrial engineer, and I ran quality systems for JVC. And I met a gentleman by the name of Lloyd Dennison during that time that, as a young man, he chose to mentor me. He left our company and he got involved in, quote, the internet. And he was putting homes online for large real estate companies here in Atlanta. Companies like Harry Norman, Remax Greater Atlanta, Northside, some very large players in this market. His company grew quickly. He had 65% penetration in Remax for broker agent websites and CRM. It was getting out of control. And he said, I need a process guy. And he called me on a Sunday afternoon. And in 1999, I decided to leave corporate America and moved into the world of online real estate. Been in it ever since.
What was the company at that time? What was that company?
Net Services.
Okay.
We were then acquired by Fidelity National Financial. Fidelity was a great time for me. We were a part of a publicly traded spinout called Finis, F-N-I-S. Really got exposed to all things title, all things mortgage. And that's where my expertise developed around how do you triangulate title, mortgage, and real estate, leveraging technology. And I became an expert at that, and that has moved me throughout my career. And so today, with Realty.com, our focus is essentially we built a national real estate portal, but underneath that, we have a real estate brokerage, all 50 states. We aggregate about 95% of listing content. And our model is really based on helping drive lead volume and conversions into large teams and larger enterprise brokerages across the country. And then as a part of that, supporting that, I do a lot of work on the HomeScout side around data analytics. So how do you append data, cleanse data, data hygiene, all of those things that give you greater insight into consumers and where they're at in their home buying journey. That's how I ended up and where I'm at today.
Nice. So we've been talking to you obviously about the data side, because one of the things that we're trying to do with Reminder Media is make it more convenient for our clients to be able to pull MLS data. And then we have a likely to move algorithm that I think I shared with you that we talked about. Have you seen any success in the space with, like, I'm calling it and categorizing it likely to move, but let's call it propensity to list or propensity to buy. Have you seen any, I'll call it magic sauce, on how to look at data to try to get leads out of that data?
We do. We use a term called market of the moment, right? As we know in real estate, especially at hyper local levels, there's always sort of shifts and opportunity. So you have a micro view, you drill down and understand the consumers in that marketplace. But in general today, what we are seeing around opportunity is we have a debt crisis. Consumer debt crisis continues to expose itself. You have an increase in delinquencies around credit cards, auto loans. And so one of the momentums that we're seeing today is working with our agent partners on how to win listing opportunities. There are individuals that are in market that have high equity, but they're dealing with excessive debt. What are their options? And as a real estate professional, there are opportunities for you to engage and have conversations to help these individuals financially. They have equity. How do I move? Can I leverage my equity? Should I sell my home? Should I take a cash offer? So it creates conversation. And right now, that's the greatest point of momentum that we actually have in the marketplace today, is identifying those people that are debt stressed, burdened households, and how can the real estate professional help them move beyond the stress of that debt.
That's super interesting, because it plays into what we're doing, Stephen, with absentee owners. Same concept, but that we don't have that data point of debt stress. So you're basically could tell us, David, here are all the people who own a property they don't live in that have debt stress. And we could sort our leads essentially that way. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, we use a parameter called burdened household. So we look at two things. We typically can see, while you can't necessarily see credit scores, we monitor credit score ranges and shifts in those ranges. But in addition to that, a burdened household typically is a household that's, greater than 30% of their income is going toward the maintenance and the home ownership around. And so we're monitoring.
And you can tell that's public data.
Get that
public data. Yeah. And we've got formulas and algorithms that we create to give us that insight, but it creates a threshold that we call a burdened household.
Okay.
What's the sales cycle, like timeline wise, for those kind of leads? Do you have any data on that?
Yeah, it will vary, right? Because you're dealing with some elements of that data may be public, so you're getting this data. Some elements are within a 30-day period to a 6-month period. So but we continue to stack that data so that we can look across the macro and the micro trends. Right. And then our real estate agents that are using that data, we really encourage them to get out of a transactional mindset. You are developing your market. And there's a difference. Going down a path of trying to chase a transaction is far different than being the market advisor and developing that market. So we teach them to look at the macro. What are the trends in the market? Therefore, how does that change your voice? And so today, their voice is, I can help you with debt. And you need to be speaking into that on the front end of that trend so that the market that you're developing recognizes you as that expert that can help them contend with the problem at hand.
Yeah, that would be great for our retargeting.
That's what I was thinking too.
Exactly right.
Yeah, how do you retarget them with videos? Because people are going to listen to that if they're struggling. That's the pain point, is the debt.
Yeah,
exactly right.
Can you pull your mic up a little closer, Steve? Because your mic's a little far away. Sorry, David, didn't mean to.
No. And you can begin, Steve, there, to your point, that's where you can also begin to loop in your lender partners, those, either the wealth managers, right, that can begin to speak. You can bring other expertise as you're the voice for your market,
right?
And begin to speak. So that's kind of the market of the moment for us, but we're constantly monitoring where those opportunities might be, because your voice will obviously change with the market conditions. And so that's a really significant component of what we like to coach to or train to, is you've got to be aware of the macro and the micro, so that your voice is on point with where people are. And you can get ahead of that. You can see those trends, get ahead of that. So that's what I mean by getting out of the mentality of just chasing a transaction. It's developing your marketplace.
How do you feed the micro to the real estate team? So, like, I understand getting that data and how important the micro data is, as opposed to the broad vision of the macro data.
Yeah.
But the problem always comes down to operationally how you feed that and get that to the agents. They can be on it, because it's speed to lead.
Yeah.
I think we go to, being relationship oriented rather than transactional, but we've got to get to them quickly when we receive the data. How do you manage that?
So today, what we're doing is one, I want to be clear, is that we have made the decision to be the data provider. So we're, with that data, we are then depending on the ability of that team and or real estate agent to leverage the tools that they have to be able to take advantage of the opportunity. So we're not trying to come in and be the CRM of the day. We're trying to be the data provider. Now, with that, we're basically appending that data every 30 days. So they're getting a fresh look every 30 days. And then each of them have some process or some formula that they are then using. And it includes, and I know you guys get this, but it includes like postcard campaigns. What's my formula for postcard campaigns? How do I drive people to proper content that's going to educate them? And everybody has a little different sequence. I think why you see us really gravitating toward teams is that we have found teams to actually be more sophisticated in their processes, consistent in their processes, and most of them already having the technology in place to support those marketing action plans.
So what I'm thinking, Stephen, we should try, this would be interesting, David, if we buy a list of that data, right, for our area, Lynchburg.
Yeah.
And we basically, Stephen, if you partner, because you have the mortgage company now, but maybe we get a financial advisor involved and we do a webinar.
Yes.
And we invite them and go, do you have debt and want to learn how to use your house equity to pay off your debt? Right. Attend this webinar. Now, I don't know the regulations around that and what we'd have to look into the compliance, but I think we could probably drive people to webinars, and that would be a really high intent lead. And then at the end of the webinar, they can book a personal appointment with you or the financial advisor. And then if that worked, I bet you could get the financial advisor to help chip in to run the ads to drive people to that webinar.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then postcards to me are a no-brainer, right? We're already doing that.
Yeah.
Those ones are a no-brainer. And then ultimately, too, think about this, Stephen. We take that data and we scan it across our sphere of influence.
Yeah.
So we go sphere of influence, and now we know who in our sphere of influence has a debt burden. Yeah. Those people we can reach out. We'd have to think about strategically how we do this without being offensive, but reach out and basically give them a equity review of where they're at, and strategically put in our, basically item of value to them. Hey, if you have ever thought about remodeling your kitchen, or, taking care of debt that you have,
Yeah.
a lot of people don't realize that you can use the equity you have in your home, and it's a way to basically get in, and then, you're educating at the same time of figuring out, is there a potential listing
Well,
here?
and what will happen there, what happens, there is this mentality today with a homeowner that, well, I've got a 3% interest rate. For example, why would I want to refinance? Perhaps. Well, yeah, it may move you to a 6, 6.25, 6.75 interest rate, whatever, 7% interest rate. But the aggregate could mean, if you were to refinance, eliminate the debt, then you potentially could save $1,200 a month, right? And you need an expert to help you walk through that particular process. And the consumers think, well, I've got 3%, I need to stay here, while they continue to fight this burden of debt. And it'll pull out those opportunities.
Oh, yeah, that is a great angle. Yeah, that's great, because you're paying 18% on your credit card.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great
And you're
angle.
fighting that burden. And, as the real estate professional, you're helping them move forward in their life.
100%. Yeah, it's a problem solver.
It's a problem solver. Yeah. And that's what I mean by market development. That's you can very much get in this transactional mentality and move away from the concept of, I want to develop. Like in our market, for example, I'm in Atlanta. Most of you guys are familiar with a Mark Spain. And Mark did everything off of the cash offer. And he's not, even though there are other cash offer systems, Mark has developed the reputation in the market and speaks to that need. And that's where we're trying to shift the mentality of the agents and the team leads that we're working with. How are you developing that marketplace today? And then we give them insight to get them to those people who have need and are most likely going to respond to that voice. Like, another little tidbit that I'll give you is, not only do we see stress around credit, stress around debt, but what we also notice, because we track mortgage information with that, is we notice that the people that have a VA loan or an FHA loan tend to be those individuals that also are grouped in the aggregate around having debt stress and decreasing credit scores. And so combining, now I can look at the market and I could be a voice to this specific group. I've got a VA loan, I've got a declining credit score trend, and I've got equity, but I'm debt stressed. And so you really get into identifying those people who have the greatest need in the market, which allows you to be much more efficient with your campaigns and where you choose to spend your time and money.
Have you ever looked? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I was just going to ask on that, because the key here is just how broad is this group? Because you're going to be putting a lot of effort into marketing and attention into marketing.
Yeah.
So you have a percentage of people that are in a debt problem.
Yeah, great question.
Just because it has to be a big group in order for you to put this kind of marketing campaign, just like Mark Spain with a cash offer.
Yeah. And so what we actually will do today when we go into a market, and we're often doing this around masterminds, but I'll go in and do a review for those people that are leading our team that leads the masterminds. But, we typically will see north of 30% of people within a zip code have some form of debt stress today with equity. Equity.
Wow,
that's incredible. We should run Lynchburg and then report back.
Yep.
And like share, because we have the ability to test marketing campaigns because we, have Reminder Media. So it's like we should report back and then, say, okay, this is what we saw. So we can then go, this is how we got the data from you, David.
Yeah.
This is what we saw when we ran it. That would be a pretty cool case study to
I
do for everybody. because the cash offer is the new AVM, like in my mind. And this is just a play on that, because that you see this with Fellow and what Ryan Young is doing there with that company, and what we've done with the absentee owners that you had gotten from, I forget who you were listening to, Stephen, early on.
Something Mulren.
Mulren, did. But, it's a popular thing. Mark Spain, same thing, right? Doing the same things. That's the new ABM. And then I'm thinking what's so interesting, like you guys closed 25 deals in January, Stephen, but 10 of them were circle prospecting.
Yeah.
And you go, well, this could make your circle prospecting that much more effective and refined. Because now you target in that area that you're going after first, the debt stressed people.
Because you'll have to be good. So like you really could own the marketing side of things, but even if someone tried to compete with you, like it's going to be you have to have an efficient process to be able to help provide that value proposition.
Right.
Like if we do this,
you really probably need the financial advisor.
Yeah.
Like you really, or the financial planner, mortgage loan officer. You need the finance person. Both from probably a compliance standpoint and then also just legitimacy, because you really have to help these people, right? That's the whole goal.
That's right. You've got to move them into the education component.
Yep, exactly. Because if you think like Dave Ramsey, his show's so popular because there's so many people that are in debt, and his baby step plan is so popular because there's so many people trying to go that route.
Right. And
this just is a way to help people, but using the real estate angle, which you're the expert of, right?
Yeah,
and
that's
so
right.
I love that. All right, so I could spend all day going deeper there. I wanted to ask you just one more on the almost other end of the spectrum, which is, do you have any thoughts data-wise, it's okay if you don't, on like the senior population? And have you guys ever looked at your data and gone, here are the people with all the money?
Yes.
And we've seen correlations between what they have and where they're at in them moving, because I just feel the senior market, if we can get some data on that, because my realtor here in PA, he actually focuses on seniors, but he's also my realtor, but he's crushing it in the senior market. And I just feel there's such a niche there that I want to get Acre Brothers into, and then other agents of my clients into.
And the way that we've approached that in the past, and the way we approach it today, we do a lot of work around, are there reverse mortgage prospects in the market? But what you really see when you run that series of data, it's the same sequence, is you actually see individuals that are prepared for downsizing. Or one of the recent projects that we worked on was a particular client that is building the 55 and older communities. And so we identified those consumers that fit a particular box, had equity, had been in their homes for a certain number of years, loan types, etc. And this particular builder had an entire program to transition them from their current home into the opportunity to build in this new 55 and older community.
Interesting.
And so those insights are between reverse or 55 and older communities. Those are all the same data elements that you're typically pulling.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, because what Brian and I are doing strategically, we're actually even going above that. We're targeting the 55 plus communities because those people are moving into the assisted living facility.
Yes.
And our angle has been partnering with the elder care attorney in the assisted living facilities to get the referrals. But we're trying to we're trying to break in because it's the 55 plus communities where that's what feeds the assisted living facility in essence. And Brian can sell that home inside the 55 plus community, or at least where we're at. And so it's like, I'm just thinking there's gotta be data out there that signifies this senior is about to make a move.
Well,
I haven't pieced it together. You know what I mean? But it's a mixture of gotta be.
Yeah, that's a good point. But there is a component to that. When a consumer self-identifies and they begin to part with email address, etc. And there's mechanisms that then give you indication around intent. So you can also start to attach intent, and you will see those people that are, not only do they have sort of the financial dynamics in place, but if they begin to opt into your content as they're contemplating, and you can then attach their email address to an IP address that then allows you to ultimately start to see what their search intents are. You can begin to identify those people that come to the surface that are more likely to move in that direction. So you can pair. My point there is you can pair intent with the financial dynamics that are in place.
Do you guys have database of like consumer data, like life events, or like credit card purchasing data or something like that?
Exactly right. Yeah, we're tracking intent. Our kind of claim to fame is, between the elements of our business, we chase consumer data that's available, public property data, and then obviously we have MLS data. And when you combine those holistically, what's the view that it gives you? And now you can come at it from the standpoint of a individual, the person, or the property. What insight do you get if you look at activity related to the property, or what insight do you get as you look at activity related to the property owner?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So go ahead, Luke.
No. You're good.
And a lot of those techniques, so that a lot of those techniques and learnings for our background came out of our time at Mr. Cooper. I was a part of a group. We sold a company to Mr. Cooper. That asset is now a part of a tech group they have there called Zome. But we had a lot of learnings that came out of loan portfolio retention techniques. And what I've been trying to do since my time there is take those data elements and how do you apply them to the general population that gives you better insight. Because look, I've been in the lead game a long time, and it's hard. And the only way you make it more effective and move the needle is you've got to append data.
Yes.
And you've got to have hygiene processes in place if you're going to maximize the accumulation of the consumer data.
That's what we're trying to get to with Reminder Media right now. We have a lot going on in the background tech-wise.
Yeah.
That is essentially the lead comes in from Facebook, or the lead comes in from your sphere, and we're about to show people all this extra data on their leads to try to give them
as much ammunition.
Ammunition, essentially.
Yep, I'm in agreement.
Yeah, that's what we're finding too, is that helps you qualify. It's very interesting because we know at a high level, at the easy stuff is, if someone got divorced, if somebody,
divorce, degrees, right?
Yeah, degrees. Somebody is doing renovations on their home, like all the things we all know, common, proceed, a person moving and stuff. There's this really cool, I've got a buddy who, genius, he did it all based upon death. And he's more in the financial space. He helps some real estate agents, but he's crushing it right now in the financial space. And they basically partnered with a company to get all the obituary data. And so they know, the obituary knows that someone passed away, even a lot of times before the government databases will tell you. And so he is like, for speed to lead, Stephen passed away. Then he's, essentially appending asset data to Stephen. And then from there, you now know, okay, there's assets, and he calls it asset or wealth in motion, right? There's wealth in motion happening. So as a financial advisor or as a real estate agent, and we've tested some of his data. Remember that, Steve? I mean, it's great stuff, but it's the same concept. It's like taking a life event that happened, and because of that, you now have a strategy that you can implement to see if you can go be a value add to that person.
And that's where, again, that's a market need and it's very real. Like you could extend that even further. I mean, Luke, you know my story, having lost my wife, over 2.5 years ago, and suddenly and unexpectedly, and I today give a lot of time supporting young widowers. And so I'm a part of a ministry called Refuge Widowers. And we primarily work with widows or widowers who have lost their spouses, and they're less than 50 years of age and they have kids in the home.
Wow.
Their needs are between financial advisor, between real estate decisions, like that's a market segment that even extends beyond death, right? You sort of have the death event, but now it's that individual that's having to contend with the financial stress. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. They don't know the best decisions to make. And as a real estate professional, if you have a heart for those people, you can walk that journey with them.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Tell us a little bit more. I know we are coming to the end here, but I want to hear, why are you a pastor at the same time you're doing the whole business thing? And, you have a church, it's 500. You saw it as this sounds kind of bad, but distressed asset. And you're like, hey, I can help this church. But how long have you been doing that? Why did you get into that?
Yeah. So, originally, when it came to ministry, my heart was youth and music. So I spent primarily the first 20, from 18 to, 40, I did a ton of youth and music, worked a lot with FCA. I played college baseball. So I was always very much into speaking into the life of athletes and things of that nature. So I was heavily involved in youth ministry. But you know what? I would say at the core, I just have always been about living a purposed life. I think, we all chase some sort of meaning and purpose for our life. And I remember I asked myself the question in college, had I been programmed or converted? And I really came down to a decision for me. I looked at the person of Christ and I said, even though I'm operating by faith, and maybe when I'm dead and gone, it's all not exactly what I believe, but I said, that's the person I want to be. And so I just have always wanted to live a purposeful life, giving back, and making a difference in the lives of other people. And that's really what drove me. And my gifting has just always been around teaching, and so I love to pour into people day in and day out. And even when I would say that when I lost Angela, I resolved to be purposeful. I asked myself the question: is this going to defeat me? Or am I going to grow from this experience? And it came down to a choice. And so I would say at the core, I just have always been about living a purposeful life and not just existing on this earth. I have a great fear of just being a person that exists and goes through the motion. And that's what drives me. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, super powerful. And again, sorry for the loss. I know that's been quite the journey, but what a powerful testimony. I've never heard it said that way, but that is so good. Am I converted or programmed?
Yeah.
Like, that is so true. And there's this journey. I remember Stephen, my brother, remembers this too, probably 16 years old, me just kind of, because I grew up a pastor's kid.
Yeah.
And just, having to make that same type of decision and looking into all the different religions that are out there. And it's just like, because you are naturally, you're programmed. Because that's just how life is. You grow up in your parents' home and you do what, is around you and what nurture is happening to you.
That's right.
And so then you eventually get to your own, walk and understanding, okay, why do I believe what I believe? Right. That is really the key question that also ties, it's a spiritual question, but it's really a business question too, because it all flows together. It's all connected, right? It's not compartmentalized. It's all connected, but it's just like, why do you exist?
That's right.
Why do you exist? What's the purpose of your life?
Yeah.
And that transcends down to what's the purpose of your business? And it's cliche to say, but it's the truth. Every successful person will tell you, don't chase the accolades, don't chase the money, don't chase those
Right.
things, chase the impact. And it's because they've all come to learn, what we've all come to learn with age is that those things fulfill, but very fleeting fulfillment. And the things you remember and you enjoy actually flows from something much bigger than that. And I've been challenging people lately to be like a 6-dimensional person. And I frame it in like the 6 F's, which I think is, essentially faith at the top, family, friends, fitness, finance, and then fun.
I love
fun
that.
is like your hobbies, but it's like you should be a 6-dimensional person. But ultimately, the more I've thought about that, teaching in a way of going, hey, how do you become a 6-dimensional person? It's with intentionality, and you have to have goals for each of those areas of your life.
Yeah.
But ultimately, all of it flows from faith. All of it flows from what have you decided to put your faith in for the meaning and purpose of your life. And from that will dictate what you do with your family. It will dictate what you do with your friends. It will dictate what you do with your fitness and your finance, your fun. That is what ultimately happens from where purpose comes from. So just really, really powerful. That's going to stick with me, converted or programmed. You're going to hear me say that a lot now.
Amen. Let's have the invitation.
Yeah.
Right, all come down to the front.
Yeah. All of our backgrounds. Did you grow up in the church, David?
I did.
Yep.
I did. And my late wife, Angela, was actually a pastor's kid. And I met
awesome.
Angela. Her dad came to the church that we attended to be the pastor. I met Angela when she was 9 years old.
Wow.
That's how long we had known each other.
That's like my wife and I. My wife grew up in the same church, my dad's church. That's
Wait, really?
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yep. I've known her forever. Yep. So grew up there in Virginia, but obviously I'm up in
You guys
Philly
have
now.
missions friends together? Did you guys have missions friends?
We did have mission friends in our church, in our church, yeah. Because I don't know if they still have it today, because my dad's still the pastor there. But Awanas, did you go to Awanas?
They had Awana after I was older. Yeah.
After you were, I went through the whole Awanas, that which I appreciate. That was good. Teach you that. I came full circle. I mean, I don't know, have you listened to Wes Huff's and Joe Rogan's podcast?
I have.
You have, dude. Wes Huff, I'm just on this Wes Huff kick. For anybody, he's everywhere. But for anybody who feels they've been programmed and you want to actually go think about, what you actually believe and what you think, go check out Wes Huff. He's a great person to listen to. Him and William Lane Craig are kind of my go-to people right now that I listen to a ton. It's been interesting. So awesome, man. Love it.
Very
Great
cool.
stuff.
David, before we do close out here, let people know how they can connect with you.
Yeah, so you can reach out to me. You can go to obviously go to realty.com and get connected with us. But in addition to that, you can reach out to me at D as in David Camp, CAMP at realty.com. So dcamp at realty.com. And
Awesome.
Love to get connected with you guys further. And I really, really appreciate you having me today. This has been enjoyable. So
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on. Make sure to connect with David. Steven, how about you?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? Because I might.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
In the computer. But yeah, David, thank you so much, man. You're awesome. And you guys, I'd love for you guys to follow our journey. Follow us on social, Stephen Acree, and then Acree Brothers Instagram page.
Awesome. Thank you all. And thank you all so much for listening. You can get all of those links mentioned, as well as the video and all of our episodes over at staypaidpodcast.com. And if you enjoyed this episode and want to show your support, head on over to Apple Podcast or Spotify. Drop us a 5-star review. Do it on both. Go both places. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. It really, really helps out the show.
It means a lot to us.
I was watching a YouTuber. Check us out on YouTube as well. And he was talking about how much the thumbs up, how much the like on the YouTube video does for the algorithm. So if you do like the show and want to show your support, it's very easy to help out the show. You can also share this episode with somebody that you know. If you want to get hold of me or Luke, you can email us at podcast@remindermedia.com. And of course, you can follow our journey as well. We are at Stay Paid Podcast on Instagram. For this episode of Stay Paid, I'm Joshua Stike.
And I'm Luke Acree. And guys, my action item for you today is to think about, the data that you have, right? You first think about your sphere of influence that you all have access to, and applying like the strategies that we talked about Specifically, this debt strategy is really interesting. So I would have you guys go check out what David's doing over there, because you can apply it there. But you can go deeper than that. You can, go to looking at maybe these likely to move algorithms that are out there. You can look at this whole inheritance algorithm. We could put that link in there as well in the show notes. But what I really want you to do is think about your data and think about how do you actually know who these people are deeper than what you do today, because you have their name, maybe their address, maybe their email address and phone number. But you can go partner with companies like David here to get more data so you can see the problems and pain points that your clients have so you can be of value to them. And ultimately, this is a relationship-based business. And the way you build relationships with people is you have to have conversations with them and you have to provide value for them so they know, like, and trust you. So utilize the data to help you have those conversations. For any clients of Reminder Media that listen to this, you get likely to move for free in your account. So, upload every name in your database. Go see who's likely to move. Use that data as a reason to reach out. Remember, the difference between top producers and mediocre producers in every business is top producers take action. Take action on that today.